Look, I know how this is going to sound. I really do. But I have to get this out. Because for 2 years, everyone has looked at me like I'm the villain in a story they wrote. And I'm so tired of it. My name is Maya. I'm 27 now. 2 years ago, I made a choice. Everyone calls it the biggest mistake of my life. But standing here, in the quiet of this house that was supposed to be my trophy, I'm not so sure anymore. Let's go back. At 22, I had the picture-perfect life. The one they sell you in magazines. I was married to Liam. He had a solid job. Something with logistics for a big shipping company. Nothing glamorous, you understand. But it was steady. It paid the bills. We had our little starter home here in Columbus, a 3-bedroom with a yard that was just big enough. And we had Lily, our daughter. She was everything. Absolutely perfect. Everyone, my mom, my sister, Liam's parents, they all kept telling me how lucky I was. To have it all figured out so young. A good husband, a beautiful child, a home. Lucky. But you know what it really felt like? It felt like I was being buried alive. Slowly. One shovelful of dirt at a time. Every single day was the same. A perfect, suffocating loop. Liam would leave for work at 7:30. I'd take care of Lily. Clean the house that was never really dirty. Plan dinner. Wait for the sound of his sensible sedan in the driveway at 6. Then we'd watch some show on Netflix and pretend we were living some great life. Meanwhile, my friends from college? They were living. My friend Chloe had moved to Los Angeles. Her Instagram was a highlight reel of my deepest desires. Rooftop parties in Beverly Hills. Pictures with people I'd only seen in movies. Exclusive clubs where the champagne was endless. She was dating guys who flew her to Paris for the weekend. Just because. And here I was, changing diapers, getting genuinely excited about a date night to a chain steakhouse, if we could find a babysitter, and if Liam had a coupon. Don't get me wrong, Liam wasn't a bad guy. He was just painfully ordinary. That was the crime. The ordinariness of it all. He'd come home and tell me about his day, and I was supposed to care. I was supposed to be riveted by stories of shipping containers and inventory management. Office drama about someone named Brenda in accounting. He thought romance was bringing me flowers from the grocery store, the ones wrapped in crinkly plastic. He'd suggest we save money for a vacation by going camping in some state park instead of, I don't know, somewhere with an ocean view and room service. Everything about our life was so small. And a terrifying thought started to creep in. A thought that coiled in my stomach during the quiet afternoons. I had settled. I had married the first man who felt safe. The first man who seemed stable. Instead of waiting for someone who could give me the life I actually deserved. The worst part was how everyone else propped up this little prison. My mother would go on and on. Liam is such a good provider, Maya. You're so lucky to have a man who comes home to you every night. My sister would remind me how hard it is to find a good one these days. But they didn't get it. Providing isn't the same as thriving. I was 22 years old, and I felt like my life was already over. My best years were being spent on laundry and lullabies. I started following those LA lifestyle accounts on Instagram. Women who looked like they'd never seen the inside of a Target, designer clothes, Michelin star restaurants, yacht parties. Men who looked at them with admiration, not just comfortable affection. Chloe was my main source of envy. She was dating this music producer, a guy named Julian. He'd bought her a white convertible, not for her birthday, not for an anniversary, just because he wanted to see her smile. She'd send me pictures from VIP sections at clubs where actual celebrities were just hanging out. And I'd look up from my phone, at my life, and wonder where I took a wrong turn. Liam started to notice I was unhappy. Of course he did, but instead of trying to understand why, he got defensive. He'd say things that made my skin crawl. Isn't our family enough for you, Maya? Why do you need all that superficial stuff? As if wanting more than a mediocre life made me shallow. As if I was the problem. He couldn't see that I was suffocating in this suburban bubble, where the most exciting event of the year was a new fast food restaurant opening at the strip mall. The breaking point, the first real crack in the foundation, came when Chloe invited me to visit. A long weekend in LA. You need to see what you're missing, she texted. You need to breathe. And honestly, I was desperate for a single breath of different air. Anything that wasn't diapers and pretending to care about Liam's work stories. When I told Liam I wanted to go, he got that look on his face. That worried, tight-lipped look. LA? For a whole weekend? What about Lily? My mom can watch her. Why do you need to go party across the country? You have responsibilities here. Action 9. Like I wasn't allowed to have fun. Like becoming a mother meant I had to forfeit being a person. That's when I realized it. He didn't see me anymore. He just saw his wife, Lily's mom. A role I was supposed to play. I booked the flight anyway. Best decision I ever made. Even if everyone wants to blame me for what happened next. That LA weekend didn't just open my eyes. It ripped them open. Chloe picked me up from the airport in that white convertible. The one he just bought for her. The top was down. The California sun was warm on my skin, and for the first time in years, I felt like the main character in my own life. That's when I knew. I was in a completely different world. A world where Liam thinking to bring home takeout because I was tired was pathetic. The hotel suite was insane. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire city. A bed that felt like sleeping on a cloud. Room service that tasted like it was made by an actual chef, not a teenager reheating frozen food at one of the chain restaurants Liam loved because he had coupons. Chloe looked incredible. Designer everything. Perfect hair, perfect nails. She had this glow. The kind of glow a woman gets when she's being treated right, when she's appreciated. She kept saying how good it was to see me, but I could tell. I could see the shock in her eyes at how dowdy I looked, how tired, how suburban. First things first, she said, looking me up and down. We're going shopping. You can't hit the scene in LA looking like you just came from a PTA meeting in Ohio. I tried to protest, to talk about our budget back home. But honestly, when she put me in those clothes, a sleek black dress, heels that made me feel powerful, I looked in the mirror and I saw her. The woman I used to be. The woman I was supposed to be. I looked like a woman who deserved more than grocery store flowers. That night, we went to this incredible restaurant where they knew Chloe's boyfriend by name. We didn't look at prices, we just ordered. Then, we went to an exclusive club. Actual VIP treatment. No lines. A private table. It wasn't like the sports bars Liam would take me to, where we'd split an appetizer and he'd complain about the price of a beer. This was how successful people lived. And being around that energy, it made me feel alive. Truly alive. For the first time in years. And that's where I met him. Julian. He was Chloe's boyfriend. The music producer. When he walked into our VIP section, the entire energy of the place shifted. Every woman in the room turned to look. He didn't walk, he commanded the space. He had this presence Liam could never have. Not in a million years. It was pure confidence. Success. The kind of magnetism that comes from actually achieving something great in your life. He shook my hand, and his eyes, they really saw me. He started talking to me, asking about my life. And he listened. He actually listened. He wasn't interrupting to talk about himself or checking his phone every 2 seconds like Liam always did. He leaned in close, the music thumping around us. Chloe told me you were visiting from Ohio, he said, his voice low. You have this fire in your eyes, Maya. It's too bright to be stuck in some small-town life. And honestly, he was right. He said he could tell I was meant for more, that I had a soul that was bigger than the situation I was in. When he asked for my number, I gave it to him. I didn't even think about it. I didn't think about Liam. I didn't think about Lily. For the first time in forever, I felt like a desirable woman. Not just someone's wife. Not just someone's mother. The rest of the weekend was a blur. A dream. Every restaurant, every party, every experience was a taste of the life I should have been having all along. A life I had stupidly given up for the illusion of security. Flying back to Columbus felt like returning to black and white after experiencing color for the very first time. Liam picked me up from the airport, with Lily in her car seat in the back. And looking at them, it was like looking at strangers. He kept asking about my trip, trying to show interest. But his questions were so small, so boring. Did you have a good flight? Was the weather nice? When he suggested we grab dinner at that steakhouse we always went to, I almost laughed out loud. At how pathetic it sounded. After the places I had just been, that night, in our bed, when Liam wanted to be intimate, I couldn't. I couldn't even pretend. I just lay there. All I could think about was the chasm of difference between settling for someone and being with someone who actually deserved you. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, a text from Julian, a picture from his recording studio. Some famous singer I recognized was in the background. Thinking about you, the text said. LA misses you already. I knew right then. I had to make a choice, and honestly, it wasn't even a choice. The next few weeks were torture, a special kind of hell where I had to pretend everything was normal. I had to smile and nod while Liam talked about his day. I had to play with Lily in the yard. I had to go through the motions of a life I was already planning to escape. Julian was texting me constantly. Every message was a lifeline, a reminder of what was waiting for me. Pictures from recording studios, videos from exclusive parties. He'd tell me I was too special to waste my time in a suburban bubble, that my talent for life was being squandered. Every single message hammered another nail into the coffin of my marriage. Liam could sense it. He wasn't stupid. He could feel me pulling away. But instead of stepping up his game, instead of trying to be the man I needed, he just got more clingy, more insecure. Who are you texting all the time? Where are you going? When I just needed to get out of the house for an hour. It was like he didn't trust me. The irony was so thick I could choke on it. His controlling behavior, his jealousy, it just proved how right I was. It just made me want to run faster. I started making excuses to go out more, girls' nights, shopping trips, anything to feel connected to something bigger than grocery lists and diaper changes. Julian would call me during these outings, and talking to him, it felt like breathing fresh air after being suffocated. He'd tell me about his music, his business deals, his plans for the future. He had actual ambitions. Ambitions beyond just paying the mortgage and watching TV every night. The breaking point came with a single text from him. Come to LA for a week. I want to show you what your life could really be like. With someone who appreciates you. I knew I had to make a choice. Stay trapped in this small gray life, or take a chance on something real. Something vibrant. When I told Liam I wanted a divorce, he completely fell apart. It was ugly. He kept asking what he'd done wrong, begging me to go to counseling, promising he'd change. And that was exactly the problem. You don't get it, Liam, I said, my voice colder than I expected. This isn't about you fixing something. I've outgrown this. I've outgrown you. Outgrown me? What does that even mean? We have a family, Maya, a daughter. I'm not happy. I finally screamed it. The truth I had been swallowing for years. I haven't been happy for a long, long time. And you were so focused on keeping everything the same, on maintaining this perfect little picture, that you couldn't see I was dying inside. He just stared at me, his face pale with confusion and hurt. I can change. I can be more exciting. But I didn't want him to change. I wanted someone completely different. Someone with drive, with success. Someone who could give me the life I actually deserved. Not ask me to be grateful for less than I was worth. My parents were furious, of course. They said I was destroying my family for no good reason. They kept talking about stability and security, like those were the only things that mattered in life. My mom cried. She wailed about how Trevor was such a good man, how hard it would be to find someone better, but they couldn't see it. I had already found someone better, someone who saw my potential, instead of just seeing a suburban housewife. The divorce process was surprisingly easy. My lawyer was a shark. She helped me get a fair settlement, alimony, child support. And I kept the house, since I was Lily's primary caregiver. Liam was so desperate to keep me, so broken by the whole thing, that he agreed to everything without much of a fight. I felt bad for him. I really did. But not bad enough to sacrifice my own happiness for his comfort. Everyone said I was being selfish. But honestly, wouldn't it have been more selfish to stay? To be miserable? To let bitterness and resentment poison me? Lily deserved a mother who was living her most authentic life, not someone who was slowly dying inside. The day the divorce was finalized, Julian flew me out to LA to celebrate. First class. He took me to this incredible restaurant, the kind where the waiters treat you like you're famous. He raised his champagne glass. To your new life, he said, his eyes sparkling. To finally being where you belong. And in that moment, I felt it. I was finally home. This was what my life was supposed to look like all along. Being with a successful man who could actually afford to treat me right. I started spending more and more time in LA. I'd leave Lily with my parents, or with Liam, for extended weekends. Everyone acted like I was being irresponsible. But I was finally living for myself, not for everyone else's expectations. Julian's world was everything I had been missing. It was full of artists, producers, creative people, people who understood ambition, people who refused to settle for ordinary lives. When Liam would call to talk about Lily's school schedule or some other mundane detail, his voice sounded so defeated, so small. Part of me felt a pang of pity for him. But mostly, I just felt relieved that I had escaped, that I hadn't wasted any more years on a man who would never, ever be enough. Living the LA lifestyle, actually living it, day in and day out, turned out to be more complicated than the dream I'd been sold. If I'm being completely honest, Julian was incredible when we were together. He was charming, generous, exciting, but he traveled, constantly, for shows, for meetings, for studio sessions in other cities. I spent more nights alone in his sleek, minimalist Hollywood condo than I wanted to admit, waiting for him to finish work, wondering when he'd be back from whatever recording session was running late. The other women in his circle weren't exactly welcoming. They were all models or aspiring actresses. They had this competitive energy, always sizing each other up, making subtle, cutting comments about who belonged and who was just visiting. I tried to fit in, but there were all these unspoken rules: how to dress, how to act, what to say around certain people. Back in Columbus, at least I knew the rules. I knew how to navigate my social circle. Here, I was always on edge. When I'd call Julian, feeling lonely or uncertain, he'd be dismissive. "Babe, that's just how the industry is. You need to be more independent." He wasn't wrong, but it stung. It stung that he couldn't see how isolating it was, to be in a new city where I was basically just someone's girlfriend. I wasn't my own person. I was an accessory. Meanwhile, Liam kept sending me pictures of Lily, at her first soccer game, at her dance recital, at a school event. He never said anything accusatory. He never made me feel guilty directly. He would just send the photo with a simple caption: "She scored a goal today." But seeing those photos, it hurt more than I wanted to admit. Lily started asking questions on the phone. "Mommy, when are you coming home for good?" And I didn't know what to say. How do you explain to a 5-year-old that you're building a better, more glamorous life for both of you from 2,000 miles away? Julian and I did have amazing moments. Of course we did. Red carpet events where I felt like a princess. Incredible trips to New York and Miami. Meeting people whose names I'd only read in magazines. But between those highlights, there were long, quiet stretches. Stretches where I felt more disconnected than I ever had in my little house in Columbus. At least there, I had my own home, my own routines. People who knew me beyond just being someone's plus one. The lifestyle was expensive too. Even though Julian covered most things, I felt this constant pressure. The pressure to always look perfect. To have the right clothes, the right bag, the right everything. In Columbus, I could just be. I could be comfortable in my own skin. In LA, everything felt like a performance, and I wasn't sure I was nailing my part. Then I started noticing things, little things. He had a lot of female friends who would text him at all hours of the night. When I asked about it, he'd say they were just business contacts, producers, artists. But some of those conversations, the little glimpses I got, they seemed pretty personal for work. He'd get annoyed if I questioned him about it. He'd turn it around on me. "Are you really going to be like this? Insecure? Jealous?" He'd say, a look of disappointment on his face. "I thought you were different." And it was his tone, the way he said it, that silenced me. Because I had to be different. I had given up everything to be here. But his words sent a chill down my spine, because he sounded just like Liam used to sound, back when he could sense me slipping away. That same accusation of jealousy. But there was a difference. A crucial one. Liam questioned me because he was terrified of losing me. Julian seemed annoyed that I cared enough to ask questions at all. That realization, it hit harder than I wanted to admit, but I pushed it down. I pushed it deep down, because I had given up too much to turn back now. About 6 months in, everything started to unravel. Not slowly, but all at once, like a cheap sweater catching on a nail. Julian became distant, always busy. He always had an excuse for why he couldn't spend time together. A last-minute session, an emergency meeting, a dinner with executives. I'd see him posting on social media, at events I wasn't invited to, at parties, and I'd see them, other women, visible in the background of his stories, laughing, touching his arm. I finally confronted him. We were in his condo. The city lights twinkled below us like a sea of fake diamonds. We feel so disconnected, Julian, I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. I feel like I never see you. He didn't even look up from his phone. I'm busy, Maya. I have a career. I know that, but I feel like you're pushing me away. Are you seeing someone else? He finally looked at me, and his eyes were cold, completely devoid of the warmth I had fallen for. You're being too clingy, he said flatly. This is getting to be too much pressure. I never promised you exclusivity. Those words, I never promised you exclusivity. They hit me like a physical blow. I literally stumbled back. I had destroyed my life. I had left my daughter. I had broken a good man's heart. All because I thought we were building something real. That's when I called Chloe, crying, hysterical, and she told me the truth that everyone else already knew. Oh, honey, she said, her voice laced with a pity that burned like acid. Julian, he's always like this. He has a rotation. Everyone in his circle knows. A rotation. I wasn't special. I wasn't the one who was different. I was just another girl in his rotation. Completely, utterly replaceable. While I'd been back home, telling everyone about my upgrade, about my amazing new relationship, I was a joke, a cliché. I felt so incredibly stupid, so used. All those months, I'd been posting glamorous photos, talking about my new life, and the whole time, I was just another temporary distraction for him. I had sacrificed my marriage, my stability, my relationship with my daughter, all for a man who saw me as completely disposable. Coming back to Columbus was humiliating beyond belief. I had been so vocal, so confident that I had made the right choice. Now I had to face everyone, knowing it had all fallen apart, exactly like they predicted it would. But the real shock, the real kick in the teeth, was finding out that Liam had moved on. He was dating someone from his workplace, a woman named Emily, and according to every mutual friend I still had, she was perfect for him, and amazing with Lily. Seeing them together for the first time was torture. I had to pick Lily up from Liam's place, and Emily was there. She was younger than me, prettier than me, and she had this calm, gentle way about her. She looked at Liam with this genuine admiration, the way I used to, a long time ago, and he looked happy. Genuinely, truly happy. In a way I had never seen during our entire marriage. My parents tried to be supportive, but they had this underlying energy. This we told you so vibe that made every conversation feel like a lecture on poor choices and consequences. My friends back home, they had moved on with their lives while I was playing house in LA. They were married, having more kids, building the very lives I had judged so harshly. I felt like a stranger, trying to fit back into a world that had continued spinning without me. The house, my house, felt empty, depressing. Going from penthouse suites and five-star restaurants back to my little starter home and chain restaurant options was devastating. I started spending way too much time scrolling through social media, checking Julian's profiles obsessively, to see what I was missing. He had already moved on. Some Instagram model who was everything I wasn't. Younger, more connected in the industry, probably less demanding and needy than I had been. Watching them together online, it was like watching someone else live the life I thought I deserved. And then I'd find myself checking Emily's Facebook page, hating how perfect their little family looked. My daughter, my Lily, smiling in their photos. Emily seemed to effortlessly be everything I should have been. Supportive, engaged, happy with the simple life I had found so suffocating. The isolation was crushing, but admitting I had made a catastrophic mistake, it felt impossible. Not when I'd been so damn confident about my choices. 2 years. It's been 2 years, and I'm still sitting in the same house, collecting alimony from a man I threw away, working a part-time job at some soulless office where I basically just answer phones and file paperwork. It's mind-numbing, but honestly, it's all I can handle right now. My confidence is completely shot. Julian's engagement to that Instagram model was all over social media last month. She got everything I thought I deserved. The public relationship, the real commitment, the partnership I convinced myself he would eventually want with me. They just bought an incredible house in the Hollywood Hills. And she's pregnant now. She's getting the whole package. The one I sacrificed my own family for. Meanwhile, Liam married Emily 6 months ago. It was a beautiful ceremony. I know because I stalked the photos online. Lily was the flower girl. She looked absolutely radiant. So happy. They bought a bigger house in a nicer neighborhood. And from what I can see, Emily is everything I never managed to be. She's content with building a life, not always chasing a bigger, better deal. But the worst part, the part that keeps me up at night, is how happy Lily is with them. She barely asks to stay with me anymore. She prefers to be there. And when she does visit, she talks nonstop about Emily. Emily helps me with my homework. Emily makes the best pancakes. Emily taught me how to braid friendship bracelets. Isn't our family enough for you, Maya? Why do you need all that superficial stuff? As if wanting more than a mediocre life made me shallow. As if I was the problem. He couldn't see that I was suffocating in this suburban bubble, where the most exciting event of the year was a new fast food restaurant opening at the strip mall. The breaking point, the first real crack in the foundation, came when Chloe invited me to visit. A long weekend in LA. A little flicker of pity mixed with judgment. They think I should have been grateful for what I had. But none of them understand. None of them know what it felt like to be suffocating in mediocrity. I still follow Julian on Instagram. I can't help myself. It's a form of self-punishment. His life looks absolutely incredible. Grammy nominations. Sold-out international tours. That perfect public relationship with his pregnant fiancée, who seems to effortlessly navigate his world in ways I never could. Sometimes I wonder, what would have happened if I'd been more patient, more understanding of his lifestyle, less needy about wanting commitment? And Liam? He's doing amazingly well, too. He got a huge promotion at his company. He's some kind of director now, and he and Emily are trying for a baby. I heard it through the grapevine. It's like they both took what they learned from being with me and became better versions of themselves for other people. They erased me from their success stories and flourished without me. Everyone has moved forward. Everyone except me. I'm stuck here, in this house that serves as a constant, crushing reminder of everything I walked away from. People keep telling me I need to focus on myself. Maybe try dating again. But honestly, I'm exhausted. Exhausted from searching for something that clearly doesn't exist for me. At 27, I feel like my life is essentially over, while everyone else is just getting started with theirs. The worst part is knowing, truly knowing, that I did this to myself, but I can't even admit that out loud, because then everyone would feel justified. They'd all get to say it. We told you so, so here I am, in the quiet, still checking my ex-husband's new wife's Facebook page, still scrolling through my ex-boyfriend's Instagram stories, watching other people live the lives I convinced myself I deserved, sitting all alone in a house that was supposed to represent my independence, but really just reminds me of everything I lost, trying to find something better.